ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Fight for Our Freedom Radio. And I'm your host, Badbaby. And tonight we were supposed to have Marie Jones with us, but unfortunately I got a last-minute email from her that she had some kind of technical problem with her book and was advised not to do any radio shows till the first of the year. So she, too, said reschedule. But just as well, because tonight we are going to have Independence with us, also known as Chris Zucker, the president of Fight for Our Freedom Radio. And we are going to talk about targeting tonight, and he has a few interesting things he wants to share with us. Welcome to the show, Chris. How are you tonight?
Well, I'm doing as well as can be expected with our country and the situation that we're in. By the way, thank you very much for making me president of Fight for Your Freedom Radio.
I know. I said Freedom Fighters for America, didn't I?
Nope, but that's quite all right. I know what you meant.
I'm so frazzled right now. I could have swore I said Freedom Fighters for America.
No, when you listen to it later on, you'll see.
Okay. Well, you could be president of Fight for Our Freedom, right?
While I'm being president, I'll run for office too. I mean, what's another clown? What's another clown running for president? I mean,
Let me explain to everybody. Right up to the last 4 minutes before the window opened up, you guys, I had no internet service at all. I logged on and off at least 6 times. Took my battery out. Finally, I shut my rotor off, and then I had to go through my control panel to actually link back in, and it showed that there was another connection, so I was actually being prevented from even getting on the internet. So you guys are even lucky that I got this window open, and I'm here.
Yeah, I think we're all lucky tonight.
I am, and so if I didn't introduce you right, sorry, I'm a little bit frazzled.
Yeah, that's understandable. We have a lot of adversity in being advocates and show hosts, and the powers that be and the criminals involved with crimes against humanity, of course, don't want the spotlight shown on actual facts and events of what's taking place. So that's why we're experiencing a lot of what we experience for at least the media aspect of this situation here in the United States and around the world. I'll tell you folks that the systematic takeover in this country is so bad, and I know that targeted individuals who are on the front lines of what's transpiring know exactly what I'm talking about. Unfortunately, people who are not targets, or maybe fortunate for them that they're not targets, but they don't have an understanding about what's really going on and the tactics that are being used by this secret government, by these criminals, against individuals, okay, and against animals as well. And I'm hoping that we can speak about some of these issues tonight, although they're very vast. If we don't keep them in some kind of cohesive order, it will be very hard for non-targets to understand the information. If people recall back in, I believe it was April 18th of 2011, our wonderful president in the White House, and I do use that sarcastically, of course, decided after quite a bit of exposure of crimes and a very large media blitz across the internet initiated by myself and others who were putting out government documents and medical evidence and all different types of exposure regarding illegal human experimentation, regarding the use of covert implanted medical devices and biotelemetry and wireless devices in humans, along with other tactics such as stalking, and the list is long as far as the tactics go. Of course, as TIs, they know what they are, and I don't want to discuss each and every one of those tonight. But back regarding the bioethics issue, which obviously turned out to be a sham, was used to take the pressure off the information that was going out to the public via the internet. So they had decided that they would hold these hearings, the first one that took place in Washington, D.C., and subsequently in other states around the country, where TIs were given an opportunity for 10 minutes during break time, where the regular bioethics meeting was being held and was being filmed and was being written about by the media. But in this dark room held outside of the purview of the media and by anyone else that this agency felt would not see what was happening, targeted individuals were allowed to have their say for 10 minutes. And the group of people that showed up there were numerous. It is on film, and if you want to see it, you can go to freedomfightersforamerica.com. On the home page, scroll down quite a ways, and it has the bioethics hearing and the letter which was sent to all the people who went and gave testimony to the hearings. And I think it's ironic because people came in hand with their stories, with medical evidence in hand, MRIs, all this type of information, stating and showing and using all different types of technological information to gather evidence. And this was all presented. This was presented at the bioethics hearing. And it is ironic that while the actual hearings were taking place and the meetings were taking place, they were all patting themselves on the back about what a great job that they were doing and how they make such a difference in the ethical ways in which the industry was being conducted, which was a complete lie, an absolute complete lie. And to prove that, you can watch the video and you can watch the victims literally approach Amy Gutman, who was the chairman of the hearings and also a human researcher, a professor at the University of Pennsylvania, who later on was exposed for ghostwriting and this type of stuff regarding human experimentation. And she knew it was taking place because some of that was taking place at the University of Pennsylvania as well. So it's ironic that they had put this thing in place just to merely use it as a blind side to the public, and to TIs it was also just a very frustrating situation. Later on, after the hearings were held in New York and in Washington, D.C. and other states, they were the participants, how they word it, the participants had shown up and who gave testimony, received a letter in the mail. And that's also on freedomfightersforamerica.com too, the letter regarding what had transpired and what had taken place during those hearings, which was an absolute insult. And by and large, I would like to read it to you if I could ever get it off my internet site here at the moment.
Well, and the sad part about it, because I've seen the video, the sad part about it is how there were people actually pleading, "Would you please save my life?"
Yes.
And they were just giving the old, well, sorry, see you later, we're not concerned,
Well, yeah, again, the way to cover up the crime is to demonize the victim, is to assassinate the victim, is to
say they're mentally ill.
Yes, of course, to neutralize any kind of credibility, reliability in the victim's statements or in the victim's information put forth. That's all part of the game. It's been that game for many, many years, and it's still going on today. And while this aspect is going on, the biomedical industry and the government is moving forward in using this technology, under the claim, now it's the Obama initiative, and the criminals are, again, using hundreds upon hundreds of millions of dollars, and I'll go over some of the agencies and some of the industries and some of the universities, that are responsible for these things, because, folks, if you're a TI out there in this country, chances are I'm going to name some names, and they are involved, whether you realize it or not, in your targeting. okay? And these agencies and these companies are part of the problem and are committing crimes against humanity here in America and abroad, because a lot of these biomedical industry companies, okay, are global in nature. Okay, they manufacture in another country, for example, like Japan, for example, but nevertheless, the devices will be here in the United States, they will be in Europe, and they will be all around the world. So there's no borders, it seems, when it comes to these large jumbo monster corporations. Okay, and that also includes our so-called, quote unquote, the Department of Justice, which is also the biggest sham of all, considering the corruption and the crime and the crimes against humanity, which are allowed to happen, with these agencies. I mean, there are agents out there, folks, that are part of this thing. They are literally in neighborhoods. They are literally working with government contractors. They are literally working with local law enforcement to make all this happen. Okay, and this is just a wide open crime. Okay, it's again global in nature. Okay, there are goals of these criminals, and again they use a double-edged sword. They will say that these biomedical devices will help with schizophrenia, and they will help with Parkinson's, and it will help with other debilitating aspects. Okay, so they come off as we need this money, we need this information, we need this science, we need these devices, we need this research. And on the dark side, okay, which is the side that the TIs live in, okay, this is how their lives were transformed from average normal individuals, okay, and I'm not saying that they're not normal, but I'm saying that their lives have changed to a situation where others who are not targets cannot understand, cannot believe, and not comprehend the stories and the tactics that are being used against humans in this country and around the globe. And so by bringing up this information now, I wanted to show you by making comparisons, okay, by making comparisons and putting this piece of the puzzle together, okay, that number one, the government is not concerned for any bioethics, okay, that is quite the opposite. Now, I will state that in another minute, and I'll tell you how. I would like to read the letter that was sent to the victims and to the participants of this thing, and I'm having trouble finding it, but I will. But again, there are other things that have happened subsequently after this hearing and after that letter was sent to victims, stating that we are not doing any investigations on any criminal activity taking place regarding targeted individuals, okay? And that basically what it said was that they were investigated before and that they didn't feel the need to investigate it now. Now, I mean, the word bioethics is ethics, okay? Ethics regarding biomedical. Now, if people are coming forth with information that there are crimes in progress and they're using these types of weapons, sound weapons, and all different other types of medical devices and wireless sound systems and all this against human beings, okay, which is absolutely crimes against humanity, okay, because even in the international world, the use of directed energy weapons is considered a weapon of mass destruction, by the way, in case you didn't know. So in the international world, the use of a directed energy weapon is a weapon that is considered a crime, and it is considered a weapon of mass destruction, believe it or not. Okay. After this, our so-called president and traitor in the White House, this Obama, came up with another one called the Obama Initiative. Okay, and this is that the need for neuroscience. Okay, for neuroscience to by and large, just use these medical industry companies, make the same excuses why they need it, and get hundreds of millions of dollars for this research. I'm going to read now just a little bit off the White House website regarding the BRAIN Initiative, okay? President Obama is making new investments in the BRAIN Initiative, a bold new research effort to revolutionize our understanding of the human mind and uncover new ways to treat, prevent, and cure brain disorders like Alzheimer's, schizophrenia, autism, epilepsy, and traumatic brain injury. Keeping in mind, folks, that this is how the medical industry gets its funding, okay? This is how they get their funding. This is the claims that they make in order to get the vast amount of money. And like I said before, there is a dark side to this initiative. The ability to use these neurological devices in ways that people couldn't even imagine unless you're a victim or unless you're familiar with the technology. Since the announcement of the BRAIN Initiative in April of 2013, dozens of leading technology firms, academic institutions, scientists, and other key contributors to the field of neuroscience have answered his call and made significant commitments to this initiative. All right, federal commitments, the building off of $100 million in commitments announced last year at the National Institute of Health, NSF, and DARPA. The BRAIN Initiative is growing to 5 participating federal agencies with the addition of FDA and IARPA. Okay. Also, the National Institute of Health, $46 million in new brain-related grant awards focusing on new tools and techniques. DARPA, Advanced Research Projects Agency, which to me is one of the quintessential devils and one of the biggest companies in crimes taking place against humanity around the world. Okay, they're building on 4 existing programs that they already have and planning new investments in the BRAIN Initiative with the ultimate goal of relieving and rehabilitating war fighters and civilians suffering from traumatic injury and neuropsychiatric illness. Okay, we all know, or hopefully most people know, that the psychiatric industry is the biggest sham considered in any of the professional world. At the drop of a hat, anyone can diagnose you and your life is taken from you and changed forever. I know, because I'm a victim of just that, by false accusation. And that's how they got their hands on me, to literally forcibly implant me with neurological devices as torture weapons. The FDA is also involved in this. The FDA is joining the BRAIN Initiative with the goal to enhance the transparency, the regulatory landscape for neurological medical devices. Now, after what I just said about the bioethics hearings and their turning down, of listening to people who came forth to them, telling them and showing evidence about crimes in progress, crimes against humanity, this took place in 2013, all right? 2 years after the fact that it was exposed by the people, by the victims of this technology and of these other types of heinous crimes being brought forth against them, which were totally ignored, this initiative has now come forth. There has been no regulations. There have been no laws made. There have been no investigations or no setup of any agency to investigate malfeasance in these crimes. Okay? None. And when it is reported, they're never investigated, folks. The National Science Foundation, NSF, is continuing to make investments to support BRAIN Initiative by accelerating fundamental research and development of new technologies for neuroscience and neuroengineering. Folks, this is about money and control. That's what this is, money and control. They are not concerned about anyone's health. Okay, get that straight. IARPA, Intelligence Advanced Research Projects Activity. IARPA is joining the BRAIN Initiative with the multidisciplinary approaches to advanced understanding of cognition and computation in the brain. Okay? That is where we're talking about people being victimized. because they are taking computers and interfacing them into the brain, using them as attack devices, using them as mind control devices, okay, and much, much worse. Long-term outcomes are what they're expecting. The Brain Initiative has the potential to do for neuroscience what the Human Genome Project did for genomics, by supporting the development and application of innovation technologies that can create a dynamic understanding of brain function. It aims to help researchers uncover the mysteries of brain disorders such as Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, depression, post-traumatic disorder, PSDT, and all this other jazz. Okay, this is what it's all about. Outgoing on new private sector partners are making commitments to support the Brain Initiative. Here's some of them. Okay, private sector commitments: $30 million. U.S. photonics industry to develop new optics and photonics technologies to tackle challenges of the Brain Initiative. $5 million from GlaxoSmithKline. Fund innovative peripheral neurotechnologies and provide unrestricted, royalty-free access research purposes to all intellectual property developed through this challenge. Intellectual property, your thoughts, your thinking, your dreams, your hopes. Private research effort, $65 million from the University of Pittsburgh. Interesting. Pennsylvania, creating new University of Pittsburgh Brain Institute focused on unlocking the mysteries of normal and abnormal brain function. $12 million from the University of Berkeley, California, and Carl Zeiss Microscopy. Infrastructure for neurotechnology development. $40 million, the Carnegie Mellon University. Okay, commitment to support the goals of the Brain Initiative. $62 million, the Simons Foundation. If you research these companies and these organizations, you'll find that their hands are in a lot of this kind of stuff, and not for the good of humanity. Continuing progress from existing partners, $60 million annually from the Allen Institute for Brain Science. $70 million from Howard Hughes Medical Institute, $40 million over the next 10 years from Calvi Foundation. Folks, understand, these are corporations that need to be brought to justice, because what they're doing is not only funding and providing material that is going in use for crimes against humanity. 2014, the President's request, the Presidential Commission for the Study of Bioethical Issues released the first of 2 reports exploring core ethical standards to guide Brain Initiative and other recent advances in neuroscience. Are we hallucinating here? In 2011, they turned it down. They turned down looking at crimes taking place. So why in 2014 are these partners in multi-millions of dollars into the billions of dollars, if you add it all up? Why all of a sudden is this acceptable? Why? Because these people are criminals, absolute criminals. The Human Genome Project demonstrates the potential impact that ambitious research programs like the Brain Initiative can have. This is unbelievable, folks. From 1988 to 2003, the federal government invested $3.8 billion in the Human Genome Project. Okay? This is what I'm talking about here. Folks, if you're a TI, some of the names that I've just read off to you may be involved in your targeting, may be involved in the funding and the money used that's against you. I have DARPA. I have NIH, okay, the Department of Agriculture, Health and Human Sciences, okay. All of these names were on a consent form that was placed in front of me before I was jumped on and operated on against my will. DARPA, National Institute of Health, okay. These are all agencies that are funding the crimes against me, and that are funding crimes against humanity with other TIs as well. And yes, there are many other biomedical companies out there. There are other biomedical companies that are owned by organized crime families out there. There are people in our government who are taking money from lobbyists from the biomedical industry to change laws to make it legal to take a person off the street, to force them into a mental institution and have their way with them with no words, nothing left to say. Nothing. Okay? And it's very important for people to understand how serious this is. This is very serious, and it can happen to anyone at their choosing and their beck and call. This is how serious, and I am talking to you 100% fact. I'm telling you out of my own personal experience, and I'm not going to talk too much about my own personal targeting. I've done enough. Another article I want to bring to people's attention, and this was written by Wayne Madsen, somebody that I respect very much. This was written May 8th of 2015. The title of it is The NSA Makes Medical Intelligence Operations a Priority. Some of the information here is also important to a lot of TIs because it gives you some of the names of the government agencies that are involved in this thing, okay? And why would the National Security Agency find this so important? Just as much as Obama's BRAIN initiative, because it is all the same agencies involved here. National Security Agency, and yet another worrying sign that the U.S. National Security Service has completely gone off the rails. A June 2010 PowerPoint slide. Okay, this is even before the BRAIN initiative now, and before the first hearing of the bioethics. PowerPoint slide titled Medical Pattern of Life Targeting High Value Individual, subtitle SIGINT, okay, which is a signal intelligence, enabling human intelligence. Targeting describes how NSA is using medical intelligence, MEDINT, to target medical patients. The PowerPoint presentation is classified top secret by COMINT, that's Communications Intelligence, by misusing medical information and data to target patients for either surveillance or assassination. This is from the Gov. NSA is on the shaky ground with regard to abiding by the Privacy and Data Protection Acts of dozens of nations, as well as the International Law on Human Rights and Warfare. If targeting includes using medical intelligence to assassinate individuals, NSA and its military and civilian analysts are in violation of not only the Geneva Conventions, which prohibit attacks on medical personnel and hospitals, but also war crime statutes. The abuse of MEDINT is also a clear violation of conclusions of the Nuremberg Tribunal, which concluded that the use of hospitals and mental institutions to carry out murder are clearly war crimes. This is what I'm talking about here, folks. There are war crimes and crimes against humanity being taken place by the United States government and other governments around the world with this technology. As witnessed by the Central Intelligence Agency's use of psychiatrists in its torture program, the NSA has used clinical psychologists in its medical intelligence operations. The CIA doctors who were involved in torture have been accused of violating professional standards in addition to their Hippocratic Oath, and the NSA clinical personnel are no different. One individual identified as part of the NSA medical intelligence program has the title of clinical psychologist in operations. That's SSG-13. Okay, that's a government classification. NSA's medical operations, according to the slides revealed by NSA whistleblower Edward Snowden, included extracting pattern of life from medical intelligence, identification of all reoccurring and therefore predictable patterns of behavior that constitute the specific treatment regimen for a target's medical illness, medications, medical tests, medical surgical treatments, hospital, and doctor's visits. Now read between the lines on this one, and you'll understand the use for it with the torture and the type of things that they can do to debilitate you. Although the NSA slideshow refers to Osama bin Laden as a target because of his middle-stage renal disease, recurrent urinary tract infections, and kidney stones and intestinal problems, it is clear that any world leader could be subjected to the same type of NSA medical intelligence surveillance. A 2010 State Department DNA collection operation indicates that many world leaders have been targeted by the NSA medical intelligence program. The NSA program has involved its British partner, the Government Communications Headquarters, also Sandia National Laboratory in New Mexico, Oak Ridge National Laboratory in Tennessee, the CIA, the Laboratory for Physical Sciences at the University of Maryland, and the British Secret Intelligence Agency, MI6. The medical intelligence operation also involves NSA's ultra-secret RX branch, which is involved in special access research. The medical intelligence program even involves placing radio frequency identification tags on prescription packages and the use of pharmaceutical honeypots to deliver possibly poison medication and sabotaged equipment, including intravenous bags and potent injection bottles to targets. Honeypots in espionage are females or males who lure operatives of the opposite or same gender by providing sexual favors. The sexpionage targets are then prompted to carry out specific tasks through the pressure of blackmail. The NSA is quite clear, and its intention is to gain control of pharma to targets, conduit through the breaking of seals of pharmaceuticals, RFID tracking, and geolocation, and what is perhaps the most sinister aspect, initiating an operation on acquired targets. In the world of intelligence, an operation on an acquired target usually means an assassination. As far as the inviolability of the neutral status of the International Committee of the Red Cross, the NSA sees IRC hospitals and field agents as candidates for ensuring that pharmaceuticals and medical equipment delivered to targets are clandestinely tagged or sabotaged. The NSA promoters of medical intelligence brag that tagging and tracking medication supplies to specific target enables us to leap over the non-electronic moat with its HVIs, that's high-value individuals, surround themselves, enabling their geolocation. The NSA also believes that the credible medical intel never goes stale. That means they keep learning from everything that they do when they do something to an individual. Okay, or when they're surveilling an individual.
That's why when a target participates in going to the doctor regularly and they take your blood, you're helping them out with them, whatever they've done to you, you're giving them the information.
That's right. And you're not getting any real information. You see, that's a part of the thing with the TIs too. They go to a medical person or personnel or anyone in these, in the medical industry or what have you. And yes, the real information is gathered and brought back to the targeters and to the agencies, and the TI is giving all just information by and large. And I can't say this all the time because some people have been lucky enough to get real information off of MRIs and such, but the majority.
And it's easy to figure out, Chris. I mean, I figured it out right away because I went to the same doctor for like 20-some years. And then all of a sudden, whenever they would take my blood for my cholesterol, it'd be 2 tubes. And all of a sudden, they're taking 6 tubes of blood from me. And I'm like, what are you taking all this blood for? Well, in case one breaks. No, that's why you take 2. You take one for the lab, and then in case one breaks, you got a backup. You don't take 6. And what they were doing was sending them to the people who were targeting me so they could monitor my blood.
Well, and I'm sure they may keep some on the side to possibly use at another point in time. Who knows? For some hideous reasons that only they know.
Well, then the next time I went to the doctors, I figured I would see how they would react to me saying no, they couldn't take my blood, and she got very angry And I told her, well, I forgot to fast. Oops, I forgot to fast. It ain't going to do you any good. And she came back in and said, you come back in here in 3 days. I want that blood.
Yeah. Well, you see, this is how it's working. Let me read on a little bit. What is most disconcerting about the NSA Medical Intelligence Program is that the classified briefing on it came 6 months after the U.S. State Department, then headed by Hillary Clinton, requested U.S. embassies around the world to send DNA samples of government leaders in addition to fingerprints, facial images, and iris scans to Washington as part of a program called the National Human Intelligence Collection Directive, NHCD. The CIA director had previously been designated as the National Human Intelligence Manager for the U.S. intelligence community, which NSA is part, and the actual operations were carried out under the National Clandestine Service of the CIA. Okay, so you see, folks, how important it is for these criminals, these murderers, okay, to collect DNA data, okay, about people and subjects of their interest for further use in whatever they choose to do. So this medical technology is can be made extremely evil to the people that they have intentions for. On March 24, 2008, a secret no-form cable from the State Department to the U.S. Embassy in Asunción, Paraguay, requested DNA samples to be collected on progressive presidential candidate Fernando Lugo, as well as other presidential contenders, including Education Minister Blanca Alvalar, former Vice President Luis Castigliani, and former General Lino Oviedo. In August 2010, Lugo, who had been elected president, was diagnosed with cancer in 2012. He was overthrown in a coup organized by the CIA. In addition to Lugo and Venezuela's late president Hugo Chavez, cancer also suddenly plagued the leaders of Brazil, Argentina, Bolivia, and Colombia. Do we have to put together the pieces to read between the lines here, folks? A July 31, 2009 cable from the State Department to the U.S. missions to the United Nations requested biometric data, including DNA samples on UN officials, including Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, UN permanent representatives of Security Council member states, and North Korean diplomats. This directive also included the order to collect DNA samples from the UN embassies of Austria, Burkina Faso, China, Costa Rica, Croatia, France, Japan, Libya, Mexico, Russia, Turkey, Uganda, and Vietnam, as well as the ambassadors and any other officials from the European Union, African Union, Organization of Islamic Conference. The cable was very specific on which UN officials were subject to DNA collection. Key officials of Secretariat, Specialized Agency Committee, Commission, and program officials in New York, Geneva, Vienna, and other UN system cities, to include special assistants and chiefs of staff, also targeted for DNA collection, were non-aligned movement G77 group of 77, OC, Office of Islamic Conference, permanent representatives, particularly China, Cuba, Egypt, India, Indonesia, Malaysia, Pakistan, South Africa, Sudan, Uganda, Senegal, and Syria. The collection of DNA did not stop with the UN headquarters, but also targeted diplomats and the International Atomic Energy Agency and NATO. The tasking called for DNA samples from UN arms control, interlocutors, especially candidates for the position of Director General of the IAEA and the heads of other international institutions. The cable specified arms control diplomats from other international arms control organizations, NATO and the OSCE, Organization of Security and Cooperation in Europe, particularly diplomatic and arms control officials from Austria, Brazil, Burkina Faso. I'm not going to keep going over all the names of the countries. International health officials were also targeted. The cable is specific on targets. Director General of WHO, which is the World Health Organization, head of UN AIDS, the Pan American Health Organization, under secretaries, heads of specialized agencies, and chief advisors. You see, folks, if we compare this to Nazi Germany, they're doing the same thing the Germans are doing, but they're using the technology to do it. They're gaining information. They're gaining, in every way that they can take over. So if they can take over by using people's DNA, by understanding their medical signals and all this other kind of stuff, to be able to track them with satellites, to be able to know what their health issues are, and all these investigations, all this biometric data, okay, because it is biometric, amongst other things, in the collection of the medical industry and the biomedical industry. Okay, it's abundantly clear that the Snowden revelations and the State Department classified cables allegedly supplied by Bradley, now Chelsea Manning, that the U.S. intelligence community has embarked on a dangerous program of using medical intelligence to assassinate high-value individuals or high-value targets. In 1975, Senator Frank Church displayed before a Senate hearing on the abuses of the U.S. intelligence community heart attack guns produced by the CIA. The gun powered by battery and fired a frozen water projectile containing poisonous shellfish toxin. When the bullet entered a target, the projectile melted, leaving a small red blemish on the victim. The shellfish toxin entered the victim's bloodstream, causing a heart attack. In all cases, medical examinations would conclude that the victim died from natural causes. To wit, a sudden heart attack today. The NSA and the CIA have obviously teamed up to develop more exotic and technological methods to kill targets. Advances in telemedicine now mean that a political assassination is only one or two keystrokes away from Uncle Sam's killer in military uniform and business attire. Okay. Written by Wayne Madsen, and it is very, very true. And that is what we are seeing now in this country. This is what our taxpayer money is being put forth. Our individuals around the globe who are suffering at the hands of these criminals and the crime against humanity in a government that says land of the free and the home of the brave, and the sham and the lie. And this is what we're seeing right now. Have any comments on that, Badbaby?
Well, we are living in the matrix, that's for sure. And I should have looked it up, but there is an executive order that was written, I can't remember what year it was, where it gives the government the right to experiment on the people without their consent. Are you familiar with that executive order?
You know, I'll tell you something right now. Nothing surprises me about this government anymore. Even if the law states, about, they're specific about human experimentation, okay, and they do not follow that law. We know, the right of consent, okay, which is allegedly what's been spoken. During the 1997, I think it was 105th Congress, where Senator John Glenn got up and made his speech regarding human experimentation, which, of course, was never put through because the paid-off politicians, by the lobbyists and by the biomedical companies and by the researchers, felt it was more.
The state says that's in the vaccine document.
I mean, this goes on and on, that humans are now basically have no rights. Okay, they don't have a right to their thoughts, their own privacy, their own thoughts. They can be surveilled in their homes, okay, by these agencies with this technology. There are people in your community that are part of this, that are traitors to their country. They have no care for their neighbor. They work with these criminals. They allow them into their homes. They have set up, they have been given government clearance, okay? If you're a public utility worker or you have access to sensitive areas of the grid, such as the telephone lines and the utility lines or cable or what have you, they are been given government clearance, sworn to secrecy, and have been made part of the multi-jurisdictional task force. So, in other words, if Joe Jones, who's a telephone guy, okay, comes to your telephone pole or to the line that goes to your house, okay, they may be asked to install a device up there that can monitor you in your home. Or it may be something worse that can literally attack you in your home, or make it possible to happen, or make it easier to surveil you in your home. All right? This could be your neighbor. This could be your so-called friend. There are people in your local communities. They're in law enforcement. They work with the Counterterrorism Task Force. They're given a state certificate. Their agency is given funding. They're given military equipment, which I know a lot of people in a lot of different states are now watching local police look like full military garb in black and driving armored vehicles and totally acting in a totally different manner. And they're trained in a totally different manner. As I had done a show with he was a chief of police in Gilberton, Pennsylvania, who stated that the Counterterrorism Task Force certified officers are trained that every citizen, every person is a potential terrorist, okay? And that is becoming...
And this is why the police are so aggressive. We're seeing all these videos of them being so aggressive is because they're being trained in a military manner.
Yeah, that's part of it. That's part of it, but it goes a little deeper than that, too. The training is one thing. The way you're trained is one thing. The way you carry out your job is another. There are a lot of people that are on the take, okay? There are a lot of people involved in serious, serious corruption in our justice system and in our law enforcement agencies now. As a matter of fact, there was an article that I had put out last week regarding U.S. Marshals are fed up. The majority of U.S. Marshals are fed up with the corruption. You know, they state that 70% are honest and 30% are on the take, and this is from them, and that they're fed up with their own brothers and sisters on the pad and taking money and doing illegal activity. Okay. Now, if you remember history, and I remember you had Rodney Stitch many times, and you know, he had spoken about Del Vecchio, which was the FBI agent who was involved with organized crime, and Ippolito and Caracappa, who committed murders and setups for organized crime. Okay, this is the nature of the beast here. I mean, we're watching people get pulled over in a car for you know, the slightest infraction and wind up dead. Okay.
Well, there's one young lady in Texas. She went down there to get a job, and she got pulled over for not using her turn signal, and she wound up dead.
Yeah, I mean, it's this has literally become a war on citizens by what Obama said when he first started would be the transformation of America. And he has certainly provided that with the help of our secret government and other criminals that are involved in the crimes against America, crimes against humanity, and crimes around the globe. We've been watching this happen. We know, I hope that most people really understand that the takeover is in place. It is in full swing. It is about really to come down, you know, very seriously as soon as the economy collapses and when martial law is instituted. TIs need to be very, very careful normally in their regular lives now. But if you're on the red list, they're coming. They will come for you. I mean, if they're surveilling you in your house now and you have helicopters outside your every night, if you have agents that are working you with directed energy weapons, sound weapons, lasers, all this kind of stuff on you now, okay, nearby, across the street, next door, what have you, in 3 shifts a day, you better believe that when it really comes down to it, then you have serious issues being on the red list, okay? And I don't recommend anyone stay in the same place when that happens. And there's a lot of questions put forth to me regarding that statement that I've just made, such as where is a good place to go? Why do you think it's much safer to be out in the street? Which I didn't say stay out in the street because it's not safe out there either. But insulation with other people that you can trust does help. Okay, if you're out there alone, it's very bad. It's very bad alone because if you're trained in military tactics and you can handle yourself, it's one thing. If you are not and you do not know how to survive, if you do not have the finances to be able to store food and, be one of the prepper types and be able to safeguard what you have, then there are other issues to think about, And what we're seeing here is the breakdown. We're seeing the takeover happen. We're seeing America making deals with countries we wouldn't have made deals with 20 years ago. And the reason is, if we can't take over the country by attacking them outright militarily, then of course they go in diplomatically. And what was the big issue for the United States and Iran was nukes. How do we get in their door? Offer them nukes. And they knew that. And Iran will turn around and use those nukes on us, sure enough. But using that as an example, we're in Syria. We've been in Egypt. They're overthrowing Mubarak. And, this goes on. And why is this happening? Some people say it's for our natural resources. They're natural resources. So it's a financial game. But what if perhaps this is another way to get the foot of the New World Order in a country where they couldn't have had it before, okay? To condense what everyone has said about the European Union, the Asian Pacific Union, the African Union, the South America Union, okay, and now the North American Union, which is the last holdout. And what's holding it out is the Second Amendment, okay, the rights, the people. That's what they're worried about. This country would have been taken over already if the citizens weren't well armed, and they know it. They know it, okay. That's why they go around and thrust and parry and go through back doors trying to grab people's guns. This is what it's all about.
Yeah, and they're running a lot of those programs too, Chris, where make your neighborhood safer. Bring your old gun in, and we'll give you a $100 gift card for Walmart or something. And yeah, I saw that up here in Detroit, and I'm telling you, people, there were just tables of guns and people were in front of there with signs saying, we'll give you a fair price for your gun. Please don't turn it into them. And they just walked past them.
Yeah. Well, this government can't be trusted. I think that most people can understand that now. At least I hope most people do. But, if we look back in history, hundreds of years ago in the American Revolution, from what I understand, I could be wrong as far as the percentage rate, but I think it was only 20 or 30% were participants, okay? And, were actual participants in the revolution itself. And that is not a large percent, okay? With the technology now, though, it makes it almost impossible to hide in the woods. It makes it almost impossible to hide in an underground shelter. So, it becomes a new game. The battle is a numbers game. And the numbers are the population, which are trying so desperately to depopulate with every which way that they can. So when people start really waking up, they are prepared.
They're doing with weather wars.
Yeah.
They're using HARP and causing all this flooding and devastating people with their homes and also taking life. You know, and it's not going to get better. It's going to get worse.
You know, it's ironic that I hear that, you know, they're so concerned with what's going on with right-wing extremists, okay, militias, and people of that, you know, nature. Let me tell you something. There are different types of extremists, and all right-wingers are not people who are looking to blow up buildings and do this other kind of stuff. There are patriots out there, I know, because I have an organization that's one of them, okay? We don't go around, we're not prejudiced, we don't hate anybody, we don't go by religion or color. We don't care about that. I mean, we accept people for people. You're either good or you're either evil. You're either for freedom or you're or as far as we're concerned, you're either a communist, a socialist,
a traitor.
You know, and you know that's not what this country was built on. That's not what it was all about. And these politicians, this is what kills me about the citizens in this country, because I don't understand. I'll never understand this. Why anyone would want to be a communist in America, where there's capitalism? Do people need to be given jobs? Do they need to be told what to do? Some do, obviously. Some people are desperate enough that they just want to sit on disability, even though they're not disabled, and collect welfare checks and collect disability checks. Okay, they want the big handout. Then, of course, you have now. I'm going to state this from the start. I have nothing against immigrants. I have nothing against immigrants that come into this country, that want to be part of America, that want to be happy in a free society, okay? I have nothing against that. But if you're an illegal alien and you come over here and you want to commit crimes, you want to run drugs, you want to run people, you want to kidnap people, I have a problem. I have a major issue problem, okay? And our politicians are supporting this. They're supporting this activity. They're allowing it to happen. We could have closed the borders years ago, and I said this 30 years ago. And we could have closed it then, like we could close it now. And then maybe that's why Trump blowing his horn about illegal immigration is so popular. Now, I don't even know if I trust the man. Honestly.
Well, he's also saying he wants to change the Constitution. Did you hear that?
Well, no, I had not heard that, but I'll be quite honest with you. I don't trust him because of his position. You know, it's.
I don't trust him because he wrote a big old fat check for Hillary when she was running.
Yeah, that's very true, too. So, you know, who knows what his real agenda is? Okay.
I think they're all a bunch of actors.
Yeah. Well, I know that what we have now is no good. What's in there now is no good. And aside from that, anyone that really knows what's going on knows that these senators and these House representatives, I mean, by and large, with just very few exceptions, are all puppets, and they're all directed and told what to do. They make a lot of money doing what they do, okay? I mean, think about this. The lobbyists are spending $32 million to a politician to get something done, okay? So they're making a lot of money, and a lot of it is under the table, unreported, you know, that kind of stuff, all right? So they're crooked, they're corrupt. Meanwhile, we sit back and vote for the same people over and over and over again. I don't, but I'd say we as a country. We keep the same incumbents in office and allow this criminal activity to go. People who signed off on the Patriot Act all should have been removed from office. I believe that. They should have all literally been taken out of their seats and removed and arrested. Okay? And we have communists, and we have socialists, and we have fascists right in our government. But folks, you got them in your community too. I want to explain something, and I explain this in a lot of shows that I've done throughout the years, the hundreds of shows, okay, that the unions are very much involved in these crimes, okay? Yeah, there are a lot of unions, and there are a lot of union members. Some may not be aware of the criminal activity taking place in the community, but a lot of them are. And a lot of them are part of the problem, and they are the foot soldiers of the New World Order. I gave an example of the public utility workers who are using these devices and who are installing them in people's residences, okay, in and around their residences, okay, to make this kind of stuff happen. They're working for the phone companies. They're sitting in rooms, monitoring what's going on. They're sitting in fusion centers. They are literally monitoring people who are targeted on that list. If you're put on that counterterrorism watch list, they can do anything they want to you. They can surveil you. They can use directed energy weapons on you. They can set you up. They can do whatever they want, okay? There are cells in every community. There are, and they're made up of government contractors. They're made up of people. There are two different types here. They're professionals, I could call professionals such as utility workers, cops, mailmen, this kind of stuff, okay? They work for Gov. Then they have the others. Now, the others are the dirtbags. They're the gangs, okay? They're from all different kinds of clubs. You can go across, you use your imagination of what kind of clubs I'm talking about, all different types of clubs, the drug dealing clubs, the motorcycle clubs, all this. It's a global network of organized crime. That's what is going on, folks. It's a global network. I've spoken to people, and I've spoken to advocates in other countries. I've spoken to victims around the globe on every continent around the world, and I kid you not. I have spoken to victims from every continent. I'm not saying every victim, but many victims from many countries, all right? And you'd be very surprised when I listen to some of the things that they tell me, and it's almost like listening to somebody who's being targeted in California or somebody that's being targeted in Florida or New York or whatever. It starts with the gang stalking, okay, to shake you up. It starts with the police harassment and the funny things start happening and the entering of the home and the whole thing, the whole entire method. You know what I'm saying? I mean, how is it possible for it to happen in Russia and China the same way that it happens in Berkeley, California, or in Detroit, Michigan? Okay? Because it's all a system. It's all put together. It is a network. The largest network in the world isn't the government network. It isn't the CIA's network. It's the unions, the international labor unions. They have the tightest network system in the world. And they're using that system. And Gov's part of it, too. Okay? Think about this. DOJ members, they're union members, a federal union, okay? The state workers, the state unions, okay? But a lot of them are international unions, okay? I've been talking about unions for years because I became a target because of unions and organized crime. And I know that a lot of them are involved in the biomedical industry, okay? So this is nothing new about what I'm saying. You can listen to past shows and hear that. But it is true, and I want victims, TIs, targeted individuals, to know that specifically, okay, or anybody who could be a potential TI, because it is true.
Well, the headquarters that they had over here on the side of my property, every 2 weeks they'd have a barbecue. All them guys that got out of them trucks, and those were the trucks that were following me around, they all had union hats on or union shirts.
There's other people involved here, too. They get criminals. They get people in jail. They give them a break. They tell them, we'll let you out. We'll get you off probation. It's a carrot at the stick.
Well, yeah, they call that the get-out-of-jail-free card.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, by and large, we've discussed some of the ways and some of their motive, and how they're going about systematically taking over people. Not only as targeted individuals, but, some of their goals here. And that's what we're seeing now. And I just want to make people aware of that. That's why I'm out here tonight talking about this kind of stuff.
And unfortunately, Chris, I've been seeing a lot more of the elderly becoming victims, too.
Well, these are, a lot of this are crimes for financial purposes. Okay, and when you target the elderly, there's money involved. There's people with homes, there's people with estates, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And, sometimes the family members are involved in these crimes for financial benefit. Everybody makes out except the victim. Okay, if they get an elderly person and they get this person falsely diagnosed, now they have them inside a hospital bed, and they're making money from the pharmaceutical companies prescribing medication that they don't need. They can do any kind of research and development to this person if they're put out and there's really no family contact or what have you. You understand? So, and then when everything's said and done, there's an estate. Okay, and I've seen this, and a lot from victims. You're a TI, for example, and you're being targeted. You have elderly folks living with you or what have you, and they pass away, and they come after you. They give you a false diagnosis, and they try to slip you in guardianship and make you ward of the state, and you wind up in some cuckoo bin, and the state winds up with your money, and the judge makes the split. A very good friend of mine, Janet Phelan, who is a media journalist, speaks about this constantly, and she has in the past, about the crooked judges who make deals with the prosecutors regarding the states, and they make money off that. You understand? They sell off the house, they raid the bank account and whatever, and they wind up with money. It's the same thing with Child Protective Services or DCF. They take your children, they make money on the children. They make money on you for fighting for your kids, you understand? And they make money for the funding to the foster parents and for whomever. The only people who don't make out are the victims. I mean, if you go to freedomfightersforamerica.com, there's a lot of information on there about just these subjects and examples of these subjects. So if you want to find out any more information for it, you go to the site and see it for yourself. But there's a lot of different agencies. I'll give you another one, the VA. All right, DHS says that veterans are potential terrorists. They're a threat. Because why? Why? Is it because they have PSDT or PSD, whatever you want to call the accusation that the person has?
Post-traumatic stress syndrome.
It's because they have military training. They know how to use a firearm. They know how Gov works and operates in the field, in the military, okay? That makes them the threat in a takeover. They are resistance, so they want them out of the way. Why did all those vets go untreated like that, okay? That's why. That's why. It's not a financial. That wasn't a financial game. Well, maybe it was. Hold on a second. Maybe it was part of the financial game, because if they have to keep paying benefits and paying for a vet to be in a hospital and all the money spent, okay, that's allocation that they don't want. You understand? So maybe they're in the way. They get them out of the way that way too. Okay, so there's different agencies involved in different parts of this crime. These crimes. Okay? So. It just goes on and on. I mean, I speak to so many people about the, victimization, about them, why they're being victimized, okay? And some of them are totally unrelated to the average directed energy weapon targeting and the microwave targeting and the biomedical targeting. But, folks, most of these are the same criminals, okay? These are the same criminals. This is just another aspect of the crime. That's all. That's all. It's keeping in mind here, if you're in a local community and you're being targeted, it's the same cops. It's the same people in that community that are involved in these crimes.
They always sent me this. That's what I realized when I was doing the old call the cops. They always sent the same ones, and they were always perping me. Then I called one time from a friend's phone, and so it didn't show up my house, my number, and I got a cop that wasn't a perp. So, yeah, they are the ones that are in the program are the ones they send.
Well, they also have people that they send around the country, like some of the medical creeps or the psychiatric creeps that go in to take over a victim. You understand? They go around the country and perform operations on a victim.
Yeah, I almost got fished into one.
Or they'll send a shrink around, and he'll go place to place to different towns and states, okay, and he comes in there, and he works for them, and when they want to neutralize someone, they bring that person in, and they write them off as skits or whatever the diagnosis is, and start doping them up with drugs and everything else, and get a court order to take those psychotropic drugs, and then maybe that person will be lucky enough for their life to get the heck back out of the walls of that hell, okay, and then go out onto the street and become a target. But now they're forced by some crooked judge in your justice system to take this medication to lower their resistance and make it easier to use a carrier wave and a microwave and sonic array and infrasound and ultrasound on you, okay, and do more research and development on you. And that's what's going on. That's what's going on. People see it. You know, you get arrested falsely, you wind up in jail. They have experimental units in these prisons. I've done interviews with people who were victims in jail, where they literally were brought in and operated on against their will in a cell. You know what I'm saying? Or in a hospital inside a prison. So this is going on all over the place. All over the world. I have people contacting me. I shouldn't say calling me, but emailing me from places that you wouldn't even believe. You know, and I couldn't when I was getting emails from Malta Island. I was getting emails from Russia. I was getting emails from China and from the Philippines and Australia, Brazil, Costa Rica. I mean, it goes on and on and on.
Didn't you mention to me too, Chris, that it seems like the targeting the people are contacting you more because it's increased. I mean, more and more targets.
Yes.
You
know, since 2007, okay, I would have to say it's probably tripled the amount of emails that I get. And some of the emails that I get, with the permission of the people, I will put down under victim statements, you know, on the website. You know, there's about 3 or 4 pages of victim statements there. You know,
isn't that where our story is too?
What's that?
Isn't that where our story is? We did a story together, recording together about our story.
I never placed that on a website, believe it or not. I
really?
Don't know why.
Because a lot of people ask about. In fact, there's someone in the chat right now that says, I'm guessing this person is a real, genuine TI. Obviously you don't know much about independence and Badbaby. We've been out here a long time, haven't we, Chris?
Yeah, we sure have. I mean, if you go to freedomfightersforamerica.com, I have my readers, I call it my Reader's Digest version of my story on there.
Remember if we did it in my window or yours? But we did, because people were asking our story.
I've done 2 interviews with Miriam Snyder because obviously I couldn't interview myself, so we did 2 interviews on my story. I've been on other networks, discussing the human experimentation, and on occasion I have spoken about my story. Unfortunately, I cannot give out too much information because it does involve organized crime and does involve specific people whom I know, okay, as far as names and locations and that type of stuff, and I don't want to put that out on the Internet for various reasons. Breathing is one of them, I should say, at this moment in time. So I don't, expose that information, but I do expose the tactics that are used against me and the methods that are being used against me. It did cause me to do many years of research on directed energy weapons and the government documents involved in the crimes against the TIs and against individuals throughout the years of exposing crime and corruption through podcast and as a blogger and on a website. Other individuals and other agents and agencies and so forth have contacted me, and I've helped them expose their issues of crime, okay, of their victimization. For example, there was a man that I've worked with now for a few years. He's ex-Secret Service. He worked on the presidential detail in the White House during the Ford and Carter years. He was a police officer in California. He was a border agent at the border of Mexico. He exposed what was going on as far as the illegal drug running from Mexico by the CIA, and exposed other types of things that were going on, actual presidents who were receiving bags of drugs, okay, which was true. And so a lot of these people, a lot of people like that become neutralized. They're falsely arrested. They're falsely imprisoned. They have assassination attempts, or they are assassinated, So it's not only one specific area of corruption. It's crime against the board. It breaks all laws. Any laws that are on the books are now broken, and it's allowed to happen. This is the takeover. We are a taken over nation. Speaking to Deborah Tavares, she calls it the de facto government. And you know what? She's right. We are living in a de facto government where nothing works. Nothing works right. There's no protection by law. The law and the justice system has been completely vanquished and taken over. It has. And if you really, try to be a TI, I mean, not try, but you're a TI, and you want a day in court, you want to sue these people in the United States of America, you better understand something here, folks. This is kept under state secrets laws. They don't want to expose this. Even if you have evidence against them, they're not going to hear it in a court in America. Not by and large. Yes, there have been some victims that have been lucky enough to maybe even win a case under a gag order because they have so much evidence, okay? And then they're given money and shuffled away. The people who testified at the MK Ultra hearings who were victims of MK Ultra, I think it would be safe to say that not all MK Ultra victims were totally, left alone after the MK Ultra hearings. I'm sure that there's some who were involved in the MK Ultra program that were victims then that are victims now still to this day. To this day.
Yeah. COINTELPRO and McCarthyism pretty much lines up with it if you go and research that. I want to address someone made a comment in the chat. There is a harasser that comes into my window and puts a link up about News for Whites or whatever. I don't click on that, and they log out. I can't delete it, so don't click on that. I don't have anything to do with that for anybody that's new. But someone said I'm off-white, almond colored. I don't even know what the article is. I don't know if it has a virus or what.
It ain't even worth talking about because it's just a way of distraction from what we're discussing. So I don't even give them credence. It's not worth it.
Well, and there are a few callers. If someone's on the phone and wants to ask Chris a question, just star 8 and raise your hand because we'll take a few questions tonight, I guess. Hey, Chris?
Yeah, sure. All you have to do is hit star and 8 on your phone, and that'll let you know if you want to ask any questions or have any comments.
Well, I do want to talk a little bit about how people can get radiated by someone walking behind them with a backpack or a cell phone. So why don't you explain a little bit how that works?
Well, it's kind of funny you mentioned that because I just put out a video that has been out there for a while that people probably should look at. It would probably explain it a lot better because it's actual real-life demonstrations of these criminals being filmed at the time and showing the use of the cell phone in targeting. Now, keeping in mind here, some of these systems that are involved in the phones and the apps in phones now can collect information and data that quite honestly, most people won't even believe. They can collect your radio signals that emanate from your body. I'll give you an example. If you've ever have an MRI collects the signals that come out of your body from certain areas of your organs of your body, okay? In other words, they can map your whole entire body if you have a full scan. Once that happens, okay, for someone that's a TI, if they have already mapped not only your brain but your entire body, they know what signal comes from your hand area on your right hand or your finger or your leg or whatever. So they know that radio signal. So your targeter can put that information on a computer, okay? They show an outline of a body, all right, and then they can have the radio signals to each part of your body. And they can attack that specific part of your body. Or if you're totally implanted like I am, fully integrated, okay, they can use a series of implants along nanowire or electrodes to attack at the same time to different areas of the body and the brain, all right? This is the same type of principle with the telephone. They can collect the data, okay? They can literally collect the data and then use the phone to also attack, all right? Or if it's a satellite, okay, or a Gwen tower or a cell tower, okay, we'll get in. I'll try to discuss some of that with you too, but they can collect the data and then send the targeting system to that area or to you, okay? It all works. That part of it is satellite, and it is part of the grid system as far as cell phone towers and as far as Gwen towers go. There was a man from England, okay, Barry Trower, who spoke about CellDAR, okay, that's cell phone radar. In other words, you can be driving down the street with your cell phone. Actually, Al Cuppett also discusses this, that you can have a cell phone in your vehicle, for example, and all along the highways now, they have all at these little boxes that most people don't even know about, and it knows who you are by your cell phone, okay? Because when you purchase a cell phone, you give them your date of birth, social security number. So it's attached to the radio signal that's part of the phone. So when you pass by that device, click, they know who you are by that phone. If you're a targeted individual and you're implanted, they know who you are anyway and can track you all around. They can download a computer with your radio signals from your body, or if you give them a retinal scan at a DMV or one of these government clearance type of jazzes and all that, they can put that in a satellite and track you around the world. That's the same principle of getting the new passports with the RFID. You carry that passport, they can track you all around. Okay, you know that perhaps maybe in some sense that may be the only good thing about reason to track you for your personal safety. But then again, folks, being a victim forcibly with these types of implants and these radio devices and biotelemetry and biometric devices makes me more of an advocate against tracking, items, whether it's a car or whether it's your clothes or whatever these days, because they want to tag everything. They want to tag absolutely everything.
Yeah, okay, we got a caller that wants to ask a question.
Okay.
Welcome to the call, Arizona. How are you this evening?
I'm doing pretty well.
Do you have a question for Chris?
Yes, I do. I was at one point trying to get out of my hometown, and I didn't have a cell phone or anything like that. In fact, at one point, I left all my baggage in a motel room and just took off. But I had money on me from a bank.
Yeah. Large denomination?
They were able to track me everywhere I went.
Were you driving a vehicle?
No. I was on foot.
You were on foot. Okay.
Yes, but I had cash money on me.
Okay,
all I had on me was cash money.
Let me ask you a question. Who was tracking you? Gov, PD, organized crime? Who are the people that you think are following you?
I think all of the above.
Okay, so you've been made a target by this government. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, I've been made a target of organized crime, I think, mostly.
Okay, well, that explains it all. Okay, because since it is a global network of organized crime, which does involve governments and does involve law enforcement, it could be that, yes, they do have the ability of tracking the strips within denominations. It would usually they do that with large denomination bills, with hundreds and fifties and 20s, but yes, I can do it with any bill. That's not really a problem. But if you were a target to begin with before you fled, they also can, put chips, RFIDs in your clothes, in the collars of your shirts, in your pants, in your underwear. They can sew it in, and they're very small. They're metallic. And nowadays, some of them are sealed in silicone plastic or nanopolymer plastic, like the biomedical implants are, so it makes it hard to detect. But I've had that scenario in my past where my clothes were literally, they'd open a small corner of a collar and put, something inside there, or if they can get a hold of your jewelry, like a watch, they can put in a tracking device in that. There's different ways of being tagged, so it may not necessarily be, through dollar bills. I mean, because people nowadays are savvy with the scanners of the credit cards and such. Like you can scan a credit card, you can scan barcodes and all kinds of stuff out there just by passing you by on the street. You know what I'm saying? So people are buying lead-lined wallets and stuff, which help block out those signals, and they muffle and block out signal. Okay, so it may not be that they were tracking you through the strips of the bills. It could have been something else, but you just don't know what.
Which with that type of technology where they can walk past and scan stuff that's in your purse, this is what gets me. What makes it where they can't walk by if you've got a chip in your hand and scan that chip?
Well, they do. They can use a telephone to scan that chip.
And, and people say, oh, it'll be great technology. You'll be able to open the door at work, or you'll be able to open your safety deposit box. What's to say the criminal don't cut your hand off just to have your chip?
Well, you have to understand something. The chip is a radio frequency signal. It sends out signals or a combination of signals, okay? It becomes its own informational chip, okay? It could have many different pieces of information on that chip. Like they say nowadays you get the medical chip and it says what you're allergic to and this and that and the other thing, okay? It has personal information on there that can be scanned and identified, okay? Or it's like an animal that's lost, okay? They run the scanner over the implant, in the chip of the animal, and they know who owns the animal and where the animal's from.
And they're saying that I know that some of the Target and the Walmart stores had pads by the. I saw this online. They had these pads up by the register, and people were asking them what they were for, and they said we're getting ready to scan the chip. So when you go through the store, your banking account information will be in that chip. You'll scan your hand across the thing, and it'll just deduct the amount right out of your account. You don't have to write a check or, So what my point is, in the same when you go to an ATM, you just scan your chip and punch in what you want to take. Well, my point is, what prevents someone from cutting your hand off and going to the ATM with your hand?
Well, probably nothing. That's probably part of it. But again, the dual purpose is here. All right. Let's think about the dark side here. They announce, it's a wonderful device. It makes life so easy. You don't have to fumble for credit cards. You don't have to go through a wallet to carry all of that. Wave your arm. All right. And then we have your information. Now, look on the dark side of this thing, okay? It is a tracking device. You can use it to track people with. But here's another thing. You have a bank account, okay? What if they don't want you to have money anymore? What if you're a target and they want you, you have problems with your vehicle, and You want to wave your hand over to pay for service or pay for gas or pay for this or that. And they say, guess what, buddy? Guess what, ma'am? You're broke now. Why? Because we said so. And aside from that, they can track you wherever you are by your purchases. They do that to me all the time. They know where I go. If I use my bank card, okay, and I want to go to a fast food place and get something to eat, and then I want to go get a haircut, or then I want to go go grocery shopping, they can literally, because they have access to my bank account and and all my information. And this is the team that's on me all the time that works in 3 different shifts of criminals, okay? They can literally sit at a desk, watch the computer, and know not only do they have my car tagged, so they know where the vehicle is, they have me tagged, so they know where I am too, okay, and worse, but they can monitor my purchases, okay, all by sitting there. All right, this is the type of stuff this technology is, and that's why they want to go cashless. That's why they're trying to pass all these laws against our cash, and how much money you can take out at a certain amount of time. Okay, how much money can you take? What's the most amount of money that they will allow you to take out of a bank at one time? And a lot of banks are different. Okay, they may have limits to the amount of money you can take out now, and I know that they do. Some of them do.
Yeah, I just saw a video where this woman went to an ATM, and it used to be $300 a day you could take out of an ATM, and I think it was in West Virginia, and she said they changed it to $100 a day.
Mm-hmm. Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's interesting. And it's not because of the lack of money that the bank has. It's just a matter of a control issue here, And if you are on that list, okay, if you are on that counterterrorism watch list that they placed all the TIs on, and let me just explain that a little bit more. To be placed on that list, from what I've been told by members of Gov and other insiders, okay, they do this. They have some criminal make out an affidavit and falsely accuse you and say you're this, you're that, you're a potential terrorist, whatever, you belong to this group, you belong to that group, whatever, okay? They take it to a crooked judge, and the judge signs off on it. You're placed into the Department of Justice system, okay? It's handed over to the Department of Justice system, DHS, FBI, CIA, all the ABC agencies, and also depending upon your demographics, okay, where you live, all right? And those agencies within those field offices in those areas will be watching you. They will be involved. And if you are a red list target, yes, they are going to send specific agents and contractors around you, target you with directed energy weapons, hook up your home, hook up your car, the whole shebang, okay? Everything. To take your life, to get you so, targeted and set up that you'll never get away from them, no matter what you do. Because you know what? When you're under that kind of surveillance, how are you going to get away from people that are watching you all the time? Especially if you're biomedically implanted. It's impossible. It is. And let me tell you why, okay? There's very few places that you could go with a neural chip, okay, that will block this stuff out. And I hear this from people, oh, use magnets, oh, use this, oh, use that. Folks, it doesn't work. This stuff is too technologically savvy. If I go 250 to 300 feet underwater, they can still track me with infrasound. They can track a submarine from a satellite with infrasound, okay, through water, okay? And that's just how they can track people, too. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. The technology is so out of control, okay, and there's no regulation on it that they can do this to anyone. Anyone. I'll tell you something. I want to tell you something else. They could do this to your pets and turn your pet into a surveillance device against you. And it sounds crazy, doesn't it? Well, guess what? They can. All right? You get a cat. They'll biomedically implant this cat. They'll put cochlear implants in that cat. They will listen to everything that you say. Now, I was looking a few weeks ago, about a month ago, Samsung, the TV set, right? Now they have the right to you purchase a TV set, and this thing is hooked up so they can listen to you in your home and view you in your home. And they don't have a qualm. They don't have a qualm of telling you, oh, yeah, we didn't announce it, but it does have that capability.
I
Can you
also heard
imagine
that they have facial and eye recognition to turn them on and off.
They have facial recognition now in all of those kind of devices. All right. They don't, it's when they came out. What do you think they went digital? You remember the AM stations and your radio
stations?
One
of the people that worked with me at Lionel, she had a fit when they made her get that box for her TV. She had faith in her little antenna, and she did not like it. But, it was
there was a reason for it. There was a reason for that, to take over analog. There was a reason for that.
Yeah.
They wanted it out of the public, out of the civilians' hands.
Yep.
They wanted it out because they couldn't properly monitor you. I mean, yes, they could listen to your analog cell phone if they wanted to, but they couldn't do half the things that they can do now. Yeah. And aside from that, remember the days when you had 13 channels or whatever on your TV set with the rabbit ears, okay, and not have to pay for that damn stuff. And now you have to pay exorbitant money to these criminal cable companies that not only are making you pay to watch the same things over and over and over again, okay, but they can also use it to surveil you and monitor you and attack you too. Yep. How's that work? Okay.
I think Arizona has another question.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, I do. I changed my clothes.
Mm-hmm.
I went to a thrift store,
mm-hmm.
and I purchased another outfit.
Mm-hmm.
And I changed into it in the, because I thought, well, maybe they have a picture of me, but everywhere I went.
Have you ever had a surgical procedure?
Everywhere I went, they knew who I was, and they were using the codes. You know the codes I'm talking about.
Well, you were a target. You're a target then, and they already have your information. Have you ever been hospitalized? Have you ever had a surgical operation?
Not since I've been. Well, yeah, since I've been a target, I was hospitalized, but this was when I was a new target. That would make sense. It would make sense for her. Well, perhaps you were implanted at that time before you realized that you were a target, or around the same time as you were a target. This is all hypothetical, ma'am. I can't really, be hypothetical with this stuff because only you will be able to figure out what it is. But what I will tell you is, if you are biomedically implanted, it will be extremely difficult to get the right information from most medical staff or anything, because they will be threatened off if they're not already part of the program already. If you are having situations where you can't sleep or you always feel tired although you sleep a lot, there are devices that you can purchase that will, check for radio frequencies that don't belong in the home. You can certainly do that. Okay.
And if you are a target, I would suggest if you live in a home or an apartment.
I live in a house.
Okay. If you live in a house, do yourself a favor. At night, at a certain time at night, look out your windows. Look at your neighbors' houses. Okay. Notice any bright lights coming out their windows, red, greens, blues, or spotlight-looking things shining on your house?
No.
Well,
no, I don't see anything like that. But
okay.
there are cars that park out in front of our house. They're always parking different vehicles out in front of our house.
Uh-huh. Okay. Well, you're a target, ma'am, obviously. That's obviously. And what can I ask you what county you live in Arizona? Do you live in Maricopa County?
No, I live in Pima.
Okay.
I'm down close to the border.
Okay. Well, I can see how this is going. Sometimes the demographics are tough too. Although you may, you said that you had a run-in with organized crime.
Well, I had a run-in. I had a lawsuit, a trifold lawsuit against a large company.
Yeah.
And my roommate and I used to have long conversations about the Church of Scientology. And I told her things,
okay.
yeah, I told her things that I knew about them.
I see.
And the combination of the lawsuit against this big company and the very interesting conversations I had with her, because she was my enemy, leads me to believe she told the people that I worked for about the Church of Scientology. They contacted the church, and the church told them, well, we know how to get rid of her.
Okay, I'm beginning to understand how you became a target. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Arizona. Well, thank you for your questions.
Thank you, Bad Baby. Thank you.
You're welcome, honey.
I wish I could talk to you some other time.
Okay, we have one more question.
Yeah.
Welcome to the call.
Hi.
California? I think it's California. Yes, how are you this evening?
I'm good, thank you.
And I have a question for Chris?
I do. And, Chris, you mentioned something about looking out your window and seeing if you see a spotlight or a bright light or a colored light shining in your direction.
Yeah.
And I have that, and I did not know what it was. And I knew where a lot of my targeting was coming from, that direction, but I didn't know what the light was. It appeared to be a bluish light, and it's not on all the time, but what is that? That's my question.
It's a directed energy sound laser. Okay.
Oh, my gosh.
That's what it is. Yeah. If you want to see a picture of one in green, I have one on my website. But they come in different colors. The majority of the ones that I've seen have been red, blue, and the spot, look like a regular spot. And I've had green ones too.
Explain to her what that weapon does to you, Chris.
Yes.
Well, they can. It depends on how high or low that they're turned on. Now, they work off of sound and radio frequency. If they're using military grade, okay, they can literally put a hole in you with it, okay. Chances are they're probably not military grade, and if they are, they're at a very low setting. They will cause stress. They do vibrate. They have the ability of vibrating the body. And they, depending upon the signals that they use through there, would be part of that. I have a picture on the home page at the bottom of my website of someone literally, they have the ability to take this and do these kind of things to fixtures in the homes, like light fixtures and stuff, like wall sconces and fixtures and stuff like that, or ceiling fans, and hide them. If you get a night vision camera, or if you have a rifle with a Bushnell scope on it, for example, you'll be able to see it coming through the walls of the house. I mean, this stuff can literally come through the wall of the house, and not only the window, it could come through the wall. You have found one of your perpetrators, ma'am. If you're seeing that come at you from another home, that's one of your perpetrators. Probably many more of them, but that's one. Can I ask you where you're from? What state?
I'm from Southern California.
Oh, okay. Well, Southern Cal, I have to tell you about California. It's probably one of the worst, #1 state in the union for this.
I believe it, yeah.
It is. Cal is very bad. There's a lot of research and development companies, universities.
Right.
A lot of corruption. The politicians are totally whacked out in California. And California's up there, New York's up there, Michigan's up there, Florida's up there. Those are and New Jersey. The eastern seaboard is pretty bad by and large. Massachusetts, Rhode Island. I mean, it's a takeover. This has been a takeover, and it's been done. And this is all to cull the herd, cull the population, take out who they don't want, in this new world fascist totalitarian government. If you are a free thinker, they want you out. They don't want you in their society, and that's what it's all about, really. Or if you're a whistleblower or a potential whistleblower, like what I came across in the very beginning of what's going on, which turned into an avalanche, because I thought they must have thought I was going to fold like an accordion and that would be the end of it. But I turned around and fought it and became an advocate, and a global advocate. So, it gets worse, as time gets on with me, because I learn more and I know more and I meet more, but. It's a type of situation it's very hard to shield, if next to impossible, if you live in a residential neighborhood on a grid. And if you're in the middle of nowhere, they'll figure out another tactic in order to get to you. I mean, I've spoken to people who live in cabins in the middle of nowhere off the grid entirely. And if they go out hunting or they go do something, the next thing you know, you get a helicopter come by and go whoop, 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 and then all of a sudden 5 guys drop down, and they're over at your place hooking up something to your house, that a flat antenna that works off a battery or a generator or solar. I mean, it just goes on and on. It doesn't matter where you are in this country. Even to the foothills of Montana, and I know a lot of people in Montana. The militia's there. The government is semi-decent in Montana, although there are some of these dirtbags in gov there too, But, it really depends on this, and I truly believe this. If you live in a liberal state or a Democrat liberal state, and you're a patriot American or you're a victim, you got to get the hell out of there. And it's hard because you have family members there, you have life there, you have familiarity there. But nevertheless, it's not the same place that, like, I grew up on Long Island in New York, okay? I knew all the cops. I knew everybody in the infrastructure pretty much in my sphere, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And all of a sudden, people that I had known for years all of a sudden became the enemy. They became part of this, Corruption. A good friend of mine, an ex-police commissioner, taught me one thing, and I'll never forget what he said to me. Corruption breeds corruption, and he's totally right. Yeah. And these criminals use the carrot or the stick. You get the reward if you do what they tell you to do. You get the stick and beaten down, or worse, if you don't. Okay? That's typical organized crime tactics. You know what I'm saying?
It is, absolutely.
And this is going on globally. Globally, this is going on. Now, I have friends of mine that live in the Ukraine, all right? And you know what, if you follow world, events, you know what's going on in the Ukraine. It is hell for the citizens in the Ukraine, okay?
Correct.
Now they're in a sandwich. They don't only have Russia to deal with. They have the United Nations and the United States to deal with, and they're in a very big bind. They're in a very instead of being left alone, and they were prosperous at one particular point in time, but of course the meddling, this is the dismantling. And what is it all for? What is it all for? Is it for the citizens of the Ukraine? No, it's for the gas that comes out of the Ukraine off the sea, Azov. All right, it's about natural resources. It's also a historical thing with Russia because Russia used to own the Ukraine. It was part of Russia. So there's another part of this thing. So, and then now you have your globalists. Okay, you have your Pelosi's. You have your Jerry Brown, who passes a law that says you have to be forcibly inoculated with a vaccine now. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I mean, that's hellish. That really is hellish. And people, if you know what's in some of these vaccines, I know some of the guys. I'll tell you something. I know a lot of people. I know a lot of people in Gov. I know a lot of people. I know the good guys, and I know some of the bad guys. I don't work with the bad guys. I don't really associate with the bad guys, but I know about them, okay?
Sure.
And I can tell you there's a lot of guys out in California that worked for Gov in science and in medical field, okay, that sat in laboratories and created AIDS. They created a lot of the viruses that are out here now. Sit and did it. And then they come. Then they get paid off by Gov. They keep their mouth shut, and then they go into the public sector as, oh, he's such a great doctor, and oh, he's such a great researcher, and oh, he's hawked and he's recommended. Just like a lot of the criminal Nazi paperclip scientists and evil that was brought over here, like von Braun. Okay, von Braun was a rocket scientist. Oh, he put us on the moon and all this other jazz. The guy was a murderer. The guy should have been put up to the wall with many of the others, okay? And a lot of them got away. A lot of them got away. Maybe even Hitler, from what I understand. But you see, that's the nature of the beast. This country's too weak, and they don't want people like you and me and everybody else that knows what's going on. All right.
Right.
So insulate yourself with
and put
many
on a
loved
list to be eliminated. Experimented on and eliminated is what they're trying to do to us.
Well, watch out.
You know, make it look like you know, push you to a point. So a lot of targets have committed suicide to push you over the edge. Hopefully they hope they can push you over the edge. Or you know, target you for enough years where you get cancer or some kind of illness from it.
Right. Chris, I have a question for you about those lights, because not about the technology, because I understand completely what you're saying, and
if you want to see the technology, you go to my website.
What is your website, please?
freedomfightersforFORamerica.com. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah.
The question I have for you is about shielding, because now that you mention that about these big bright spotlights, the two houses behind me have always been, well, they've been vacant for like the last 7 or 8 years. And they use those houses. They're in and out of those houses all the time.
Yes, they do. Is there a for sale sign there?
No.
No? There's no sign at all?
No for rent, no for sale, but they're in and out of the houses all the time.
Interesting, isn't it? Isn't that interesting?
That is, but you know, when my targeting was the absolute horrific time, a very horrific time, was, probably 7 years ago, and I have a wooden fence, and I knew that the woman behind me had passed away and that the house was going to be vacant for a while.
Right.
Well, I went outside one night, and it was the force field of this electronic smog. It was so strong it was unbelievable. Well, I saw the porch light on behind me. Right. It was so bright. It was more like a beacon than a backyard light.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly
and it
what
was it was a bluish color. I never saw anything so bright in my entire life. So evident, and this is the worst part, is this house is directly behind my bedroom, and this is like unbelievable to me as I'm thinking of it now. The smart meter is there right across from that floodlight.
Right.
Then there's an electrical pole with a transformer on it.
Yes.
So I'm like, I don't even believe how much is there. It couldn't be anything anymore.
Well, yes, there is, because what they've done is they've tied into the electrical system of your house.
They have.
Yes, of course. And I'll tell you, if you get an electric voltmeter, you can, the ones that you plug into the AC outlet, or even one that has like a little thing that you just touch one of the holes on there, and there's a meter on it. Well, if you see the meter go more than 2 on the scale, back and forth, flipping back and forth constantly, that means they're pulsing the electrical system, okay? They're pulsing radio frequencies through the electrical system of the home and through the fixtures of the house. Have you had problems with any of your appliances? Have you noticed, coffee machines being replaced more, or microwaves burning out quicker, or TV sets going quicker, or anything like that?
Yes, to the extreme, because the microwave, they pulse it, and when they've pulsed it, it actually has an explosion in the electrical component. There's like an electrical component.
Okay. Yeah, it impacts the system of the machine.
Well, it looks almost like a flame. It actually
another thing you'll notice too is when you plug things in, they'll spark.
Yes,
exactly.
Yes, I was just going to say that.
And unplug them, the same thing happens.
That's right. That's because they're pushing too much through the electrical system. Okay. And
exactly.
That's what's happening. So they're tied into the house. And you know what? Even if you I remember years ago when it first started with me, and I realized what the hell was going on. And I had shut down the circuit breaker box, and it seemed like I got relief right away as soon as I did that. But what happened was they bypassed the box after that because they realized what I was doing. So they bypassed the box and they went into another section of the electrical system. You know what I mean? So they couldn't shut it off. And do you hear any generating noises or motors in the walls or in the floors or anything like that? Any kind of sounds that don't belong there? Does your refrigerator run for long periods of time or?
Yes, and everything freezes inside the refrigerator when that happens. But, you know, to be honest with you, I think I get ultrasonics, and they've got a variety of things going through here.
I'm sure they probably do. I'm sure they're probably using ultrasound and sound. Have you been hospitalized? Could you be biomedically implanted as well?
Oh, I mean, absolutely am. I've seen, I saw the implant that's inside my foot on an X-ray.
Well, then congratulations. You're part of the Implant Target Club, like I am. And
absolutely, yeah.
So they have more than you have more than one type of targeter. You have people that are involved in the biomedical industry. If you are computer interface, they have people who know how to use brain technology. In other words, there's a system out there called Brain Gate, which decodes the signals that comes from your body and the implants that are sent to a computer, and that it's encoded, and that machine decodes it and puts it in a computer, and the operator sitting by the computer can literally hear your thoughts and hear every vocal that you have coming into their headset, and they can record it, and they can string it and make sentences, and they use recording engineers and sound engineers, and they'll bring other people using morph boxes, morphing sound. Okay, and they can make like the whole room. There's 200 people in a room. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
There's more than one person involved here. There's people in the residences. They have phone jacks. They have one house that has a generator that can run the entire block. They can have 12 houses, 16 houses run off the. I saw one of these generators one time. A friend of mine pointed it out to me while it was going on. The cops and the fire department were down the road taking this jumbo generator that was in a neighbor's yard and burying it in the ground. That was the system running the whole entire show. And let me tell you why. Because if somebody put a device like that in a residence, don't you think it would show up on a power meter? How much ampage and how much usage it would be? So they have to do it. Of course. So they have to use a generator. And that's what they do. And a lot of times anyway. And so the cops are in on this thing. I'll tell you that right now.
They have to be. They'd have to be.
And
the electric company.
They are, yes.
Because I cannot believe that the electric company would not detect these types of devices since they're running off the grid and running off electrical systems. How could they not know
because
that this is going on?
They know because there are people in the phone companies and the utility companies involved in these crimes. They're part of the multi-jurisdictional task force, and they're part of your targeting. Okay,
well, I totally agree with that. I've seen all of this.
I have,
and I know one of the callers
I even know the name. I even know the names of the criminals who set up my electrical system in my residences.
Well, so
I know their names. I know what they look like. I saw a guy. Now I'm a martial artist. Okay, I hold numerous belts. I'm a black belt, but in different arts. Okay, Let me tell you something. I could take these people out with no problem. It wouldn't be a problem to me. I saw this guy one time. I was in a store getting a cup of coffee. I'll never forget it. He saw me. That guy I never saw anybody walk around me like that in my entire life. He just like slinked so close to the gondola of all the shelves just to get away from me. He knew that I knew who he was. I seen him at my house. I know his name. I know where he has a business. He's AT&T. He's retired. He owns his own. Well, I don't know if he's retired yet, but he has a lot of people he works with in AT&T, and he owns his own electrical company in the town that I now live in. Okay, but he's been in different towns and part of this program on me for quite a few years now. You know what I'm saying? He will definitely be at the Crimes Against Humanity trial, and I'm going to sue him. And if I don't sue him, I may be in jail for homicide for taking this bastard out. Okay, he's on my list. Okay, I have a few that are on my list. Okay,
I'm
quite
sure.
a few. I know the name of one of the medical people who were involved in the surgery on me. I woke up twice during the course of the operation, and it happened over a period of at least 5 to 6 days. Okay, so.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh,
Were you kidnapped or something?
No, I was protecting somebody, a woman whose husband who had connections into organized crime, and a uncle who was a go-to guy to get judges elected in a very crooked county. And they used the FBI. They used an FBI agent, a crooked FBI agent, and he was present at the time I was jumped on. They dragged me into a local precinct under false arrest for criminal trespass, eating a breakfast sandwich in a cafeteria of an FBI building. Okay, me and the woman were dragged out of the building. Okay. And I shouldn't have let them drag me out. I should have kicked their asses right then and there, but I figured, this is all a mistake, you know. P.S. I was brought into this precinct. They put me in a cell away from all the other prisoners and were giving me voice to skull with the microwave right away. They drugged my coffee, and I was spinning around on LSD, but thank God I knew what the hell it was and I didn't freak. Okay?
Right.
The next day, they dragged me into arraignment court. They handed a shiv, which is a makeshift knife, to another prisoner I was chained to, okay, and they tried to stab me in the chest on the way to the arraignment court, okay, but I was too smart, and I grabbed the chain and held on for dear life for about a half hour till we got to the court. Now, here I am coming down off LSD and being drugged into this court, okay, it was a complete disaster. After that happened, I was sent over to a correctional facility. They tried to kill me. A crooked guard tried to let 5 guys in my cell to kill me right then and there, but I overheard the guard, so I took a mattress, slapped it up to the door, and wrapped the bed sheet and wrapped the pillowcase around it and knotted it so they couldn't get it off, and sat there and threw hot water at them while they tried to get the damn thing off. Okay, they were pissed. And then they dragged me off, tossed me into they brought me over to a university hospital. They had a CIA shrink diagnose me, falsely diagnosed me right then and there, okay, and dragged me off and brought into a room, okay. They put down the guy comes up to me, throws a consent form down. I pick it up. I'm looking at it. DARPA, National Institute of Health, this, that, and the other thing. Sign this. I said, I'm not signing nothing, pal. So he just grabbed it, signed off on it, and the next thing I know, 12 people jumped on top of me. Okay, jumped on top of me. They took a needle and knocked me out. Okay. The next time I woke up, I was in a galvanized tub of nanopolymer, which I realized what it was years later, with a full mask over my face and a tube sticking out of the solution. And as I looked down, I was completely shrouded in a diamondoid nanowire mesh from head to toe, wrapped around my body, floating in front of me as I was in the tub. The second time I woke up, I was flat on my back on the operating table with my mouth open, and there was sewing in my mouth. And I had a bright light in my eyes, and there were about 7 people who I found out later, because I even know who the hell they are, too, which were university students from that same university hospital watching this whole damn thing. Okay.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, that is really horrific.
Yeah. It's
my
a real
story is similar. It's equally as horrific, but
I'm sure it is.
I went through a different kind of trauma in mine.
Yes.
But I was implanted during a foot surgery that was supposed to be correcting. It was a corrective surgery for another foot surgery. And I did, just before I went into surgery, I was under anesthetic, and
do you have any idea of how long you were out?
They said almost 2 hours.
Do you know that? Do you know that for a fact that you did?
No,
you
not
didn't
at all.
Miss
No.
You didn't miss days, right? It was only a matter of hours.
Oh yeah. It definitely was a matter of hours. But the thing about it was, I asked the nurses where the doctor was. You know, why was the anesthesiologist here? Why were they, prepping me for surgery? And why hadn't the doctor come in? And she said, the doctor's not here. And I said, what do you mean not here? Is he coming here, or is he just not here and not coming? And it was not very clear. It never was clear, and the nurse was obviously agitated.
Well, let me tell you something.
Not at me.
You probably have more than implants in your foot. Okay.
Oh.
You could have been
have
integrated because they have made it very clear that they can implant people within an hour, 2 hours max. Okay. and they can. That means they can put something right up through your nose, shoot it up through your nose to your frontal lobe inside your brain, non-invasively without anyone ever knowing it, and they can perform other types of operations because you know what? They've had a lot of years of practice in doing it. Okay.
I know.
And so that's why when I say it's getting worse, because the technology is getting worse and the research and development's getting more sophisticated, and they have it down to a system now. Look, you know what? I've heard people being implanted in their beds. They take a knockout gas, they hook it right into the ventilation system or the air conditioning system, knock you out. Enter the house because they can enter any door, whether it's alarmed or not. It doesn't mean a damn thing. They get in because they're government. If they know who the alarm company is, they will contact the people at the central station that monitors this board and says, we're entering this house, and just don't say anything, don't set off any alarm, don't do nothing, we're here. We already know what's going on. And they will bring a surgical team and operate on you while you're knocked out in your bed. How's that?
I've heard that before, yeah.
I know a target right now. She came too when they were in her house. She saw the guy in her bathroom rinsing off the syringe and holding it up and looking at it at the light, and then she passed back out. But she saw it, and then she had a stroke after whatever they did to her. About 30 days after that, she had a stroke.
Well, you know what? This is part of the crimes against humanity.
Well,
I mean, let me tell you something. I hear of women being, they're being violated while this is going on. They have vaginal implants, robotic implants crawling up and down their bodies. I mean, I've had that stuff too, in the larynx area into the stomach on nanowire. They have robotic implants now. They can move around the body. They can literally be sent up and down and around the body, okay? Or they be carried along the bloodstream of the body. It's very sophisticated technology, okay? By and large, the general public has absolutely no clue. I have the government documents to prove it. I have evidence to prove it. I have evidence from other individuals who have been lucky enough to be able to collect evidence, who've also done extensive research. So, there's more strength in numbers of people who are willing to do something, not to sit and cry on conference calls and say the same shit over and over again. Pardon my French. But
and listen to fairy tale stories how they're going to sue someone.
Well, the misunderstanding about state secrets and about evidence gathering and who you going to convince, a crooked justice system and a crooked taken over government. I have said this 100 million times. You can't seek assistance from the people who are harming you.
Exactly.
They're not going to expose them. They're not going to allow you into a courtroom to expose them. I mean, and if you do get into the courtroom, they tell her, this is frivolous, get lost, all that.
I've seen people's court documents marked frivolous, thrown out of court, and I've also seen it turn around where they got committed because they tried to do something.
Yeah. We're not. Unfortunately, this is something that potential victims cannot understand. That even some victims don't understand because they're victimized in different ways. Not everyone's targeted by implants. Not everybody's targeted by organized gang stalking. I mean, there's different ways of being targeted. I spoke to a woman. She's an international advocate. We're working on a scenario now in the international. We're trying to get these crimes against humanity into an international court, and getting people from around the world to bring their evidence and to force this open and to make it and to shine the spotlight on the whole damn thing. And that's really the only way it's going to happen. Not begging the criminals who are making millions and millions of dollars doing this and gaining control over the population because that's their plan.
Well, the most important thing for a new target, and the bad thing about a new target going to these conference calls that are infiltrated with 2/3 perpetrators and run by big govs, is that, they are manipulated and they're talked into doing things that can harm them. There's one, I see one good thing of conference calls,
because victims can speak about things that they can't speak to anybody else about. That is a benefit because you know what? Emotionally, it's traumatic.
Yeah.
Emotionally, it's fear that rules. It's anxiety. It's the reactions of the targeting. It's the physical disability and the debilitation of the targeting. So I understand that people need to get information, but hopefully it's the information that's given to them by people with good intentions and by people who are experienced enough to give them the right information, and not, as you say, to lead them down the trap door, down the rabbit hole, or into the arms of the perpetrators.
Well,
so
be real careful before you do something. Think it out whether you want to jump out of the pan into the fire.
Well, I've always known as a TI, and I still go through this now, that when you're alone, you're more vulnerable. Okay?
Of course.
When there's other set of eyes and ears around that you can trust or whatever is much better than being out there alone. And I've been alone on this game now for about 15 years. And believe me, I've had assassination attempts on me in cars. They've tried to poison me. They've tried to arrest me. They've tried to institutionalize me. They've operated on me. They've they've badmouthed me in every community and all this other nonsense. And it goes on and on and on. Okay. And, they've spent millions upon millions of dollars on me. You don't fly 6 helicopters and hover all night around my places for nothing. I mean, even when I chose to be homeless because I couldn't take the directed energy in our residence, and I packed my bags and I split, and I go out for 6 months and live in a car with my animal and drive all over, all around. I still, every night, when I'm seriously tired and super, either just uncomfortable, because that's what happens when you're in that situation. I still have the helicopters on me. I still have those cars passing by me. You know what I'm saying? They're all around.
Yeah.
They're all around. So.
Okay, you guys. Well, we have gone over our time about 15 minutes, but that's all right because I just got to tell you I'm not going to be out here for a while.
Well, I haven't been out I shut down Freedom Fighters for America World Radio for close to 2 years. I stopped doing interviews. Why? Because I've been tired. I managed to get this part-time silly-ass job just to pay some bills that I can't normally pay, and suffered through winters of cold without oil and heat and electric and all that. So, that's got me going and diverted from my advocacy, but nevertheless, I still blog and I'm still out there and I still communicate with people.
And
I know
your web page that you work on. You always change that and put new stuff up. So
yeah, well, I'm always adding to it. I haven't been lately. I haven't taken, to be quite honest with you, it takes a good 6 months just to get it started and semi-organized, and now it probably would take me close to a year to recategorize and place that information into different parts of the website. You know what I'm saying?
Well, we get you to come over here, Chris, and talk to us over here once in a while.
Well, I'm out here from time to time. I do plan on opening up again and going full force with the shows again. I have a lot of people that contact me that want to talk. They want interviews. They are victims. There are people in Gov that want to expose certain stuff. There's a lot of people out there now that are fed up with the infiltration of the schools and what's happening, from the Arabic nations and stuff like that.
Right.
So, like a cancer, isn't it?
Now I live near Sandy Hook, and that whole routine, and there's been a lot of talk about that. I've had members from the Department of Defense contact me about what I know, and they've been questioning me about the directed energy weapons and where do I think they're coming from and who's using them and this and that and the other thing. So there are good people in Gov, but right now they're like useless because they become targets when they decide to do the right thing.
Of course.
And that's
like
the
what we're really
officer that I had, that my girlfriend's husband that was going to help me. He said, I'll check all this out. And he found out that he had no idea about all this, and he came back and gave me my evidence and told me he was sorry he couldn't help me. that if he did what they're doing to me, they'd do to him, and that's when I knew I was totally screwed.
Are there any more questions? We have any more people that have questions?
No, no one else has got their hand up. We've gone about 20 minutes over our time. I'm going to close this window out, though.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. Someone just raised their hand. Okay, thank you, California.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, thank you for giving me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I muted her.
Well, you can contact me if you wish, or write to me at chris@freedomfightersforamerica.com. That's also on my website.
Okay, thank you, dear. Arizona, you've got a question, and make it quick, honey, because I'm getting pretty tired here.
Okay. I wanted to know how to get a hold of you.
Well, you can go to my website. If you have a pen, you can write it down. It's chris@freedomfightersforamerica, FOR, America.com. Or you can go to my website and get that information, too. There's a plethora of information. It's a portal that will take you to many other sites. There's a lot of links there.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. And that's all I have. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, thanks, Arizona. Thanks a lot, Chris, for coming out here tonight.
You're welcome. Let me just say one last thing, folks. You got to beware of this global network of organized crime. It's in your community. It's in every community in the United States of America, and it is global in nature. So be careful, and it's just be out there. Just be out there looking. Keep your eyes and ears open.
Yeah. Okay, Chris, well, thanks for coming out tonight and sharing with us. I appreciate the last-minute fill-in for when Marie canceled. And like I said, everybody, I'm going to be losing my computer here tomorrow, so I don't know when I'm going to get it back. I might not be out here next week. Might be a couple weeks before I'm out here. But just keep watching, or follow me, and I'll email you when I get it back out here. Just keep your fingers crossed that I'm not gone for too long. And again, Chris, thanks. Stay safe, buddy.
Thank you for having me on. Good night, all. And good day, whatever time you're listening to this show.
Oh.